Okay, good morning, gentlemen. Resuming the Tzidkas Hatzadik Shiur, and we actually left in the middle of an Indian, but I want to go today to Ois Lamed Ches. Ois Lamed Ches, 38 in the Tzidkas Hatzadik, and here he's continues to be mefarish the Gemara and Brachas Daf Daled, which we'll go over together. But I want to go outside of my usual derech, and I'll tell you something interesting. There's a Chassidish derech, and then there's a Litvish derech. So the Litvish derech is always starts off everything you're going to open, Rav Shimon Shkop, Rav Chaim Brisker, whatever you're going to open in the Litvish world, starts with a kasha, puts down a yesod, and then answers the kasha. That's the Litvish derech halimut. The Chassidish derech halimut, you open up the Sfas Emes or Reb Tzadok, or it starts with a yesod, and then builds it afterwards. Maybe they were more afraid you're going to fall asleep in the middle and miss the yesod or whatever. But it's not something which is what you're building up to, and you only got to read to the last line to see the maskana. In the world of Tzadok, Sfas Emes, Kedushas Levi, all of them, they say yesod first and then develop it afterwards. So I'm just going to do that right now. I want to say a yesod, and I think that once we have this yesod in the back of our mind, everything will become a little bit clearer, and we have some, like, a really, what I believe to be a fantastic teaching in the Tzidkas Hatzadik. At the end of it, he says these words from the Medrash, Liba lefuma lo galya. It's the end of Lamed Ches. So that's the last words. I'm going to make it the first. Liba lefuma lo galya. Anybody knows what it means? Liba lefuma lo galya. That simple translation is Liba, your heart, lefuma, to your mouth, lo galya, does not necessarily reveal itself. It can mean something very simple, that just because something is in your heart, it's not yet revealed, if you will, and the revelation is with your mouth. In other words, just as an example, we're told in Chazal that a Navi, whether it's famous Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, Moshe Rabbeinu, a Navi can get 1,000,000 nevuahs, but he didn't necessarily, in other words, he could have gotten all kinds of hergeshim and Ruach HaKodesh and all kinds of giluyim to his heart. But a Navi is a Lashon Niv, like Niv Sfasayim. It's what you speak out. The Navi, certain things he spoke out, and certain things he didn't speak out. What was important for Klal Yisrael here at that time, or forever, Nevuah shehutzrich haladayros, so that he spoke out. A Navi could be busy all day long having nevuahs, but we only have, let's say, from Micha or Yoel, we have 1 page, 2 pages. We don't have a lot of nevuahs. This was the nevuah that's important for him to say over at that time. But everything else, liba lefuma logalya. Not everything goes from the heart to the mouth. Now you can understand this to say, like, as the Briskers say, nicht alles matrach darf man sagen. Not everything you think has to be said, which is also true. I don't think that's what this means, but we do find this. I'm sure everybody has this experience that when you're thinking something, whether you're understanding a pasuk or a Gemara or whether just a thought. When you have a thought, it can be so clear to you, and then when you say it out to somebody, like not so clear. Like sometimes as it reaches your lashon, Rav Chaim Volozhin says, we learned this in Nefesh HaChaim, that the tongue to the brain is something like the nail. You know how a shoichet checks a chalif by putting his nail, and so he closes his eyes, puts his nail along the blade and sees if he feels anything that's unsmooth. So that's the din of a bodek of a chalif. You could, in other words, you use that sense of feeling to know if there's a bump, then you have to sharpen your knife. So Rav Chaim Volozhin says in the fourth shar, he says that's what your tongue is to your machshava. So sometimes, like, your machshava could be something so clear. It happens to me all the time. And like something is so clear, It was very difficult for me because I speak barabim a lot, and I don't like to tell people in advance what I'm going to say. So sometimes I catch myself. What are you talking about? Like there could be a hole in your logic. So that's the positive shot. Tzadok and Rasi say Laila in a number of places. Something much deeper maybe, but much different, a different angle on this, and that is the following. I may have shared this, and this is the Yesod. That sometimes your heart and your mind can be full not only of machshava but of inspiration. Sometimes something can be so beautiful. It can range from seeing an unbelievable sunrise to hearing a beautiful song to hearing a beautiful Dvar Torah or reading something. Sometimes your heart can be very, very full of inspiration, very, very malay. And now you want to go, what's our human nature? You want to find somebody you love and tell that. So you run into the kitchen. Well, you wouldn't believe the sunrise I just saw. It was yellow and the sky was gray and the birds were chirping. You wouldn't believe what I saw, but of course, whatever I'm going to describe this sunrise, okay? Like nobody's being inspired b'derech klal from your description of a sunrise. It would be like let's say you hear a beautiful song, you don't know how to sing it, but I'm telling you, this thing went high, and then it went low, and then it went flat, and then it went this, it went fast, it went slow. You can't describe something. Comes to Tzadok and he says, not only you can't describe it, but don't describe it. Because what happens is that something which is in your leyv, if Hashem gives you an hisarusa delayla, that you're feeling something in your leyv, so that's something very neshamadik and very ruchani that you have within you. The minute you speak it out, which is what we all want to do, talk, the minute you want to speak it out, as soon as it passes through your lips, now you've taken something ruchani and you've turned it into something gashmi. You've turned it into a gashmiistic thing. Now it's words. Words can be printed, words can be read, words can be said over, but it's not the same. So one of the Talmidim of Rav Tzadok at the time, he said over Rav Tzadok, he said, look, sometimes you have something which is very inspiring to say, and you want to say it. Why did Hashem give it to me but to say it? But he says, this I saw in one of the Talmidim, hold it for yourself a little bit first. Hold it for your own neshama for a little bit before you spill the beans. Because once you say it out, you've lost it. Even if it would be a case where you're giving the other person inspiration, even if that's true, but you've lost some part of it because you've taken ruchnius and you've turned it into gashmius. So gilui takes ruchnius and turns it into gashmius, which is sometimes good and sometimes not good. If there's a question of me being inspired, hold it for yourself. Some things, for instance, an obvious example is like when you're saying Shmona Esrei, you have to say it. We learned from Tfilat Chana that you have to say it with your lips. That's a limud in the Gemara. According to many Rishonim, you have to daven over. If you just thought through the Shema, if you read like you're reading a book, you're reading Shmona Esrei, even if your heart is completely there. So this is the opposite of what we're saying. No, there is the case that you're taking something very, very ruchani, and you're activating your neshama, and you're creating malchus. You're bringing it right into this world. So that's what happens. Divrei Torah. Balatanya, who was a great makubal, he says that you're not even yotzei, learning Torah, if you don't say it out with your mouth. The Gemara disagrees with that, but who's also a great makubal. But that's what the Balatanya says. You can't even make, and that's why the bracha that he has al birchas haTorah is al divrei Torah, not lasek, but divrei Torah. It's al divrei Torah. It's not for the asik itself. It's still ruchni, because the point is that you have to take this davar ruchani and you have to bring it into a world, into a tangible world. You have to bring it into a concrete world. So you have to know what you're doing, and this is what we're going to learn. When you want to take something ruchani and turn it into something which we're all capable of, and everybody's a little navi once in a while. So whether you're going to take something ruchani and turn it into something gashmi, or don't do that, not so fast. Sometimes you keep something ruchani, this is a matana from Hashem, and you're not ready to be megala the kates. This term, liba lapuma loigalia, that the heart does not always inform the lips, liba lefuma lo galya. So that comes from, it's brought in a lot of svarim, but the makar, as far as I know, is a Kehillas Rabbah. It's somebody said, I actually looked online if it says it anywhere else. So somebody says the Zohar, but didn't quote his place in the Zohar. I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't know if there's such a Zohar, but what it is a Kehillas Rabbah. Liba lefuma lo galya, and there it talks about, the Medrash is talking about that the Gilui HaKetz, if one is going to say when Mashiach is coming, you're a big tzaddik, you're a big gadol, I guess when Mashiach is coming. So if you know when Mashiach is coming, not this year, or Motzei Shas HaShemitah, or Tuesday, Hayom, like so. You know how the expression goes: those that say don't know; those that know don't say. In my mind, those that predict an exact day and an hour, usually that's a fraud. It's not usually the real thing. But liba lefuma lo galya, that's the context of it, which we're going to get back to in a few minutes. But liba lefuma lo galya is not everything that's here. What can be more ruchani than the geula itself? Like once you bring it to the kates means time, zman. So once you bring it into zman means this world. Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, zman, kates. Right? What about time? Don't bring it into time so quickly. Don't bring it into time so quickly. And you're with me on this? In other words, like not everything is it always the right thing to bring it into time. Here, let's get to Rav Tzaddik. I will get to the Rav Tzaddik. So here, quoting the Gemara in Brachas, and I just want to go, I know we know this Gemara, as everybody knows Brachas, but I just want to see it inside. Very important, every word here. Gemara in Brachas says, and Dalet and Aleph. Oh. Of course, the Gemara is commenting, Reb Zera specifically, is commenting on probably the most important chaf hadimyan, right? Yud, chaf, lamed, chaf, on the most famous chaf in the Torah, and that is that when Moshe Rabbeinu told Paro that there's going to be a makas b'chayros, he said kichatzos. Kichatzos. Kachatzos. Kachatzos. He said it'll be around midnight. So that's like a funny thing. Be around midnight? I mean, can you be more specific? Very hard to know how anybody knew when midnight was at all in those days. I mean, they didn't have an iPhone. They didn't have the luach.com. So I don't know exactly when chatzos was. But anyways, he said kachatzos. So the Gemara says that really Moshe Rabbeinu knew exactly when midnight was, and even David HaMelech, when he gets up kachatzos halayla akum bachatzos halayla akum lahodos lecha. David HaMelech knew, certainly Moshe Rabbeinu knew. So why did they say kachatzos? The Gemara even says that the David HaMelech knew when chatzos was exactly. I guess there was a Ruach HaKodesh. He knew exactly when chatzos halayla. By the way, in the Haggadah, the whole list of vayehi b'chatzi halayla. Yes, vayehi b'chatzi halayla. There's something with chatzos, the changing of the guard in Shemayim. David HaMelech knew. The Gemara asked if David HaMelech knew why did he have to have a harp on his window with the wind, and he says that was an alarm clock. The Gemara says that wasn't to tell him when chatzos was. Kinar lamale lisarure mishinase. That was just to wake him up. But Batsam, he knew, he was able to know when chatzos is. Moshe Rabbeinu was able to know when chatzos is. Frek the Gemara v'kivin the Moshe Yoda lamale lameimar kechatzos. If you know, talk. Speak in absolute terms. You're a Talmud Chacham. You're a Navi. Speak in absolute terms. So says the Gemara, Moshe Kasavar, Moshe was concerned, Shema Yitu Itzdagnine Parai. Vayomru Moshe Badaihu. that Moshe had the following concern, that the stargazers of Paro, who apparently also knew how to know what time it was, stargazers also knew that it was midnight exactly. How they knew, I don't know, I'm not a stargazer. But the Itztagnine Paro, I guess you could tell by the constellations and where everything is holding and where the North Star is, they know when Chatzos is, they also know, and they might make a mistake. That's also not an exact science. So what's going to happen is the Gemara, famous Gemara, it's going to be, let's say, 5 to 12. And at 5 to 12, they're going to say, okay, nothing happened. Right? It didn't happen, so we can get out of the shelters, right? In other words, what was the prediction here? The prediction was there's going to be makas bechoros. So, if you don't mind, just for the sake of understanding it clearly, let's see the pasuk. The pasuk says like this: Vayomer Moshe. Moshe said, Ko Amar Hashem. So says Hashem. Kachatzois halayla ani yotzei betoich Mitzrayim umeis kol b'chor be'eretz Mitzrayim b'chor paroi ayoshev al kisoi ad b'chor hashivcha asher achar reichayim b'chol b'chor behema. V'yizatzaka gedola b'chol eretz Mitzrayim asher kamayu loy niyasa v'chamayu loy soisev. That Moshe Rabbeinu said, this is what Hashem said. When did he get this nevuah? He said this to Paro. What? Oh, so at the beginning, not now. But this was earlier in the last Makkah, the 9th Makkah. Paro said, "Lech me alai, hishamer locha al toisef rois panai ki b'yoyim rois chapanai tamus." Just get out of here. I don't want to see your face anymore. Vayomer Moshe Kain Dibarta. Okay, whatever you want. You're not going to see my face anymore. So if he didn't see his face, so how did he tell Moshe later that Kachatzos halayla? The answer is, Rashi says here, it must be that he told them this already by the 9th Makkah. He told them about the 10th Makkah, and he told them that it's going to be Kachatzos. Just pshat in the pasuk. So Moshe Rabbeinu had already told Moshe Rabbeinu had already told Paroi that this Makkah's Bechoros is going to be Kachatzos halayla. It's going to be at Chatzos. And then Rashi brings our Gemara. No, on Tesvav, Leil Tesvav. V'lo yomar b'chatzos Rashi Hashem yitu itzdagnine Paro v'yomer Moshe badaihu. Amal Kadosh Baruch Hu yodei itav uragav amar b'chatzos. Hashem knew when Chatzos was, obviously. Moshe Rabbeinu knew when Chatzos was, but he was afraid they were going to make a mistake.
Why do we care?
Why do we care? I saw something, I was looking at the Svarim on Brachas, I think over here, back on the back. So there's a sefer called Ma'ar Yisrael. So I happened to open up Brachas, Daf Daled. So he says that the toe is like the toast would be because Moshe Rabbeinu was saying Chatzos going by the Chatzos of Yerushalayim, and Paro was working with Cairo. So they were like 3 minutes off in terms of the Chatzos, and that would be the toast that Moshe Rabbeinu was thinking about. That I said, wow, that's like an interesting creative chat. So I looked, that sefer was written by Rabbi Avad Yosef. So like, halachic mind is a halachic mind. You can just say Moshe Rabbeinu looking at the luach, chatzos, what time is this all happening? But just while we're here, the Chaim says something fantastic. He says Chazal say what they say, which of course is what we're going to get into in a minute. But he says Chazal what they say. But he thinks the pshat might be Pashat pshat, and why Moshe Rabbeinu said Kachatzos halayla is, besides for the Yitzdagnine Paro, he was telling him a different vart and he brings here from Chazal and Pirkei Rabbi Lezer Chav Zayin, that by Avraham Avinu it says Vayecholek Aleihem Halayla. meaning that the war of Avraham Avinu against the kings was at Chatzos. And in that war, Kilel, he says here, Kilel Chamisha Asur B'Nisan Haya. Did you know that? The war that Avraham Avinu had, Keneged, the Malachim, those kings, is a mysterious part of the Chumash altogether. But that war that was taking place, like a war, like we have now a war. So it was Chamisha Asur B'Nisan, it was on Pesach, which of course didn't exist yet. And Chazal say, he says, Bereishis Rabbah Mem Beis Zayin, Ki Harigas Arba Malachim Shaharag Avraham went and he assassinated these 4 kings, these 4 huge kings. Ibda Kama Emunais, Gam Haisa Milchama Gedola Vatsuma Rishuma B'Malchei Olam. At this time, all the kings were fighting. It was like a world war that was going on Erev Pesach, Leil Pesach. In the time of Avraham Avinu, the significance of what was going on is that this whole war thing was going on, and all the kings got involved, and everybody was fighting against these 4 kings. Yayu malachim takifim v'sholtu al chamisha malachim gedolim v'takifim v'adam echad, says the Orach Chaim. And one man, hu v'avdei beisai, him and his couple of yeshiva bachrim that were around him, nitzchum, they won that war. So Moshe Rabbeinu said to Paro, you remember that chatzos? Kachatzois laila, there's going to be another chatzos. And that chatzos, the next makkah is going to be kachatzois like. So it's not a chaf hadimian like around chatzos. It's a chaf hadimian like the chatzos of Avraham Avinu, which I guess Paro knew about, or else he spoke it out, Moshe. Like that chatzos is going to be this chatzos. And hence he began to tell him about Makos u'Meis Kol B'char B'Eretz Mitzrayim Mibchar Paroi Hayoshev Al Kisei Ad B'char Hashivcha. Okay, beautiful shot, not to say these psukim without understanding that Orach Chaim. But the Rabbeinu B'chaye, so he goes a little bit further. What's Nogei Ar Gemara, and which really comes down to Reb Tzadok, and he says, I'm going to say to my words, not to burden you with his words, but he says the following. He says that Moshe Rabbeinu went through a number of stages in his life. That's me talking, not the Orach Chaim. But, where he started off when he was 20 years old, faced Paro, saw the Jews getting beaten. So he became like, forgive me, but he became like a civil rights leader. Like, this is not right. Why are the Jewish people suffering like this? And he killed a Mitzri, and he became agahitzt about the plight of the Jewish people from the palace of Paro, and that was the beginning of his career, if you will, as Moshe Rabbeinu. But then he went away for many, many years, and during that time, he found the sneh, and he became a navi, and he became a holy man, and he became the one who eventually gave us the Torah through him. So this was a different stage. And when he started to come to Mitzrayim, he said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, well, the people are not going to necessarily believe what I'm saying. I mean, what am I? I was brought up in the Paro's palace, and I'm a speaker, I'm a doer, I'm a civil rights leader. Now you're telling me come and tell them nevuahs. Who is a nevuah? Says, okay, this is a kingdom, we'll be makabel you as a nevuah, and you'll be a nevuah. And that was really the next stage in Moshe's life as a navi. But then something else happened, and this is where the Rabbeinu B'chaye comes in. There's something else that happened is Va'ish Moshe. And Moshe became very, very big amongst Ha'ish Moshe Va'itin Hashem Escheinu Am Beinei Mitzrayim. Gam Ha'ish Moshe Gadol Ma'od Be'eretz Mitzrayim Beinei Avdei Faroi U'Beinei Ha'am. That Moshe Rabbeinu became not just a navi for the Jewish people, that he spoke to the Zakenim, he spoke to Aaron, and they believed him, but he became the man in Be'enei Be'eretz Mitzrayim. In other words, the whole Egypt the whole Egypt, that's like a big, like America, right? Like the whole Egypt knew that Moshe Rabbeinu, don't mess with Moshe Rabbeinu. I don't think we think about that part of the story so much. He was the Navi, the one who knew the precise Navi that we have to watch for. The Rabbeinu B'chaya explains that this happened after the third Makkah. Because the first Makkah, Stagnine, Paroi said we could do the same thing. The Machashrim said we could do the same thing, no big deal. But after the third Makkah, they said, Etzbelakimhu. They said that this is something different. And from that point on, he was the spokesperson for Hashem. And this is important to understand, and is an important part of Hashem's plan. That's why this is important. Not only did he become like this big guru in Mitzrayim, but lahavdil, but this was Hashem's plan. Why? Because the whole point of or at least part of the point, maybe the whole point of Yetzias Mitzrayim is Laman Shisi Oisai Eila Bekirba, that there has to be a Kiddush Hashem and there has to be a Malchus in Mitzrayim Gufa. They need to understand that Hashem is the Melech Al Kol Olam, and Moshe Rabbeinu had a new mission now. Not only to take the Jews out of Mitzrayim, this is important, not only take the Jews out of Mitzrayim, but to make a Kiddush Hashem in Mitzrayim, for the Mitzrayim. And this was all part of the story that we don't always focus on, to make that kind of a Kiddush Hashem, and not to make a Chil Hashem. So therefore, says the Rabbeinu B'chaya, now Moshe Rabbeinu he raised the bar. Now, if he says B'chatzos halayla, and they mess up, Rabbeinu B'chaya, and they mess up, so then what happens is that he's ois. He becomes no longer the one who's 1,000. Or God doesn't make any mistakes, and he was the voice of God. So there's no longer. He takes away that drop of credibility from Moshe Rabbeinu, and then the mission is not accomplished of making that type of a Kiddush Hashem in Mitzrayim. So it's beautifully spoke out. If I tell you something in parentheses, off topic. On Monday I was giving a shiur on hostages and went over the halachas and the story of Rav Yitzchak Zatzal. And when he was hostage, we spoke out the halachas. But when I was looking into that, I saw something which piqued my interest. That he said that years before that hostage crisis, somebody came to him. Somebody asked him. One of the Talmidim asked him, "Can you tell us the pshat in Esther, who gave herself over, Esther Amalka, who gave herself over for basically znus to Achashverosh?" I mean, we can't be in denial of this. She slept with this guy, and how could it be? How could it be, what's the heter? Okay, so the Mefarshim speak about Avera Lishma, Mefarshim speak about Pikuach Nefesh, and mostly like the Gra says, you find this in the back of the siddur there, the Gra says that we don't say Avera Lishma nowadays, and if you'll ask me about Esther, he says Atzolos Klal Yisrael Shiny, saving the whole Jewish people. That's a different madregas. So the question to Rav Hutner was can you explain to us why is Hatzolos Klal Yisrael different? I mean, we know intuitively that it's different, right? I mean, we understand that if you're saving the whole Klal Yisrael, you go ahead and do a big Avera, I guess. But it has to be somewhere in the Shulchan Aruch that's the right thing to do. So he asked Rav Hutner this question. Rav Hutner told him that it's a very complicated question and he needs to think about it. And when he has time, he'll think about it. That's what he answered this Talmud. When he came out of the being hijacked, when he got free on Rosh Hashanah, so on the second day, Rosh Hashanah, apparently he went over to this Talmud. He says, while I was a hostage, I had time to think about this a little bit. And I thought about it. And, okay. I don't think I remembered that he even asked the question, and that here's a gadol v'yisrael, and I was thinking about it the whole time. And he said the pshat is like a little bit nogeil in Yanenu. He says the pshat is, he thinks that if Achashverosh would be successful, God forbid, in wiping out the whole Klal Yisrael, talking about Hatzalos Klal Yisrael, if he would have been successful at that, so that would have been a Chil Hashem. Chil Hashem. Here, the Nevi'im say that Klal Yisrael Natzach Yisrael lo yishaker, and you can't wipe out Klal Yisrael. Achashverosh is going to say, whether it's Achashverosh or Haman or Hitler, Yimach Shemam v'zichram, they say we wiped out Klal Yisrael. So besides for the, like, extinction is not, is not the goal. We're not allowed to be extinct. The point is that since we're the Am Hashem, and this is so important for our situation, since we're the Am Hashem, it's impossible for us to be wiped out. That would be considered like wiping out the whole world. Meaning, what's the point of the world if we're not here? And that would be a Chilul Hashem. So Rav Hutner said to this person, the pshat is Hatzos Klal Yisrael goes into the gather of Kiddush Hashem, Chilul Hashem, and saving Klal Yisrael is so that there shouldn't be a Chilul Hashem, and therefore it becomes becomes the Gilui Arais, becomes mutter. In other words, if it's a Kiddush Hashem, Bein Eser,
That's a matzah of the whole Am.
a whole Am. In such a case, it becomes mutter.
You could say that it's not necessarily that the Gilui Kiddush Hashem over surviving.
Overrides.
Kiddush Hashem over giving up a life. Because that's the point. That's why
In other words, a Kiddush Hashem of a Rabbim is bigger than here Kiddush Hashem. It would have been such a Chilul Hashem. Okay. So there should be a little bit of chizuk for us that, Hashem has to keep us going here. It would be a Chilul Hashem. It would be a Chilul Hashem. And that's the pshat. So that's the Rabbeinu B'chaya says that in his function as the man of Hashem, there could be no room for perceived error in his nevuah. And therefore he said, Kach Hatzais. The Gemara goes further and says, V'hainu damar mar, and this is what we know to be true, the saying of Chazal, Lamed l'shayncha loymar eini yodeya. Like, let's bring this right down to our hanhaga day to day. Lamad l'shayncha loymar eini yodeya. Shema tisbada v'seyaches. A person should become ragil in saying, I do not know. We don't like to say, I don't know. We like to know. Or we like to pretend we know, or we like to think we know. But Chazal is giving hadrach in a different direction. Lamad l'shayncha loymar eini yodeya. I'm not on any kind of a madrega, but I say eini yodeya multiple times a day. Just don't know. People ask me things that are way above my pay grade. So, Lamed l'shayncha loymar eini yodeya. Why? Shema tispadeh v'seyaches. You should learn to say eini yodeya. Shema tispadeh v'seyaches. What does it mean, Chaim? Tispadeh, you will be lying, but you're not lying. You're going to say something which will be perceived as a lie, yeah? Tisbadeh, I don't know how in other words, like tisbadeh, nifal, no? Isn't it? Tisbadeh v'sei aches. And you'll be chapped like, he doesn't know. So mashma something deeper than, like, if, I always think to myself, Lamed l'shayncha loymar eini yodeya. If you don't know, just don't say. If you don't know, zaknish. What do you have to say what you don't know? You have to know everything. No, but there's another piece to it in the context of this Gemara that if you don't know and you say, or even if you know and you say, but they don't know that it's true, like the Tzdagnine Paroi. So what's going to happen here is it's going to be gorem that you lose your credibility. I think that's the way the Rabbeinu B'chaya translates the Gemara. You're going to lose your credibility. Like it's better to say, I don't know exactly, and maintain your credibility, than say you know exactly, and then if they make a mistake. See, Moshe Rabbeinu I don't know if he did this. Does anybody know? At Har Sinai, that would have been good. if he would have explained, no? Like besides Mitzrayim, he would have explained, listen, I'm coming at 4 o'clock. You got to mark your calendar. Like, that would have been good. It wouldn't have been a whole Egel Azav, and there wouldn't have been a whole thing. So, but over here, what? Yeah, around 40 days. Like, what? Yeah, but he didn't. Yeah, it's funny. There's a shtickle stira in Moshe Rabbeinu, but maybe the pshat is that he had a job by the goyim. He had a job to make this Kiddush Hashem in Eretz Mitzrayim, and what was going on Har Sinai with the Jews, like maybe he held them above that, but with the Mitzrayim, he had a task to do, and the task was that they should believe in Hashem. So there he had to be more careful. Maybe what am I getting into Moshe Rabbeinu's thinking? But I'm just saying a svara that could be there. He was more worried about Shema Tisbada v'Seyaches. Comes Reb Tzadok. Let's learn inside. Lamed l'shayncha. That was a big introduction. Lamed l'shayncha loimer eni yodei Shema Tisbada v'Sbada v'Seyaches. Ratza loimer. And here comes Reb Tzadok with his thing. Even if something is 100% clear to you in your machshava, when it comes to be revealed, shehu haloshain, which is the function of the tongue, hamotzi lapoyol mashibekoyach balev. When you're doing that, again, let me explain. When you're bringing something, it's not just like when you're talking. When you're bringing something from the world of machshava to the world of lamaisa, the world of dibur. So now what you're doing is you're taking something which can't be contained in any kind of vessel, something like a machshava or a feeling, a regesh in your lave. That's something which is very big. Now I want to be megala. So the lashon is the megala, or my maisa is megala. Yeah, and dibur is a very, very big kach. You can make kinyanim b'dibur. Dibur, right? Rabbis machshavas b'leizavish. They have all kinds of machshavas, but the dibur or a maisa is our word is extremely important. The whole world was created with a word. Gracious bar Elokim as Hashemayim vayomer Hashem vayior. This is the point of a word. The Adam Harishain was given the gift of dibur, which nothing else in the Bria. Trees don't talk the way we understand it. This koach hadibur is what? It's not just the ability to schmooze or to pontificate or to say opinions or to that's not what it is. It's the koach of going from, in Chaim's language, from going from nefesh to ruach to neshama, from neshama to ruach to nefesh, to bringing it into a dibur b'malala, bringing it into this world. So every time you talk, you're taking something, assuming you're thinking when you're talking. If you're not thinking when you're talking, so you're not doing anything. But stop. But if you're bringing something, what we're doing when we're talking, we need to understand it this way, which was why you're taking something which is let's say it a different way, from the world of Bria to the world of Yetzira. That's the leyv. Haim says us from the leyv to the machshava to asiya to the dibur. Very strong koach. So you're going atzilus bria Yetzira asiya. That's what a navi is doing, and that's the way dibur is. So a new way to look at dibur and lashon is this articulation of ruchnius and transforming it into something which is gashmius. And when you do that, says Reb Tzadok, you should always keep it in an ambiguous form. Ki ha'adam alul hatuyos, and we hear clearly in context, doesn't mean that I might be making a mistake, which is true. So we said that's the yeshiva shipshat. When you start talking it out, you find out it's not exactly like I thought it was. But even if you understand it, maybe other people around it are not going to understand. You got to be chachomim hisaru b'divreichem. You have to be very careful what you say. L'kach, especially people are listening. L'kach tzarich shekol gilui ma'asav yudvarim u'vayrarim l'chol. So when you speak, this reminds me of the gra in the Gemara in Brachos, where it says that a dayan has to paskin every din that a dayan paskins has to be emes la mitai. So the Gemara says, what's emes la mitai? So emes is that you're saying something which is emes. I'm seeing a din Torah, two people are standing in front of me, and I'm saying the emes la mitai, is where everybody in the room says, aha. Meaning, sometimes zoicha to say a dvar emes and everybody, okay, that's the emes, right? Even shakranim sometimes, like sometimes the emes, so that's emes la mitai, that's a schus, to be able to say emes la mitai. So the same thing here, when you're saying something which is emes, when you're saying in Rav Tzadok's words, a gilui, something from a higher world into this world, you're bringing something into this world, not only it has to be true to you, but it has to be mevayrorim, or mevayrorim lakol, has to be clear to everybody around you. Emes la mitai. Loy mashim mevayr rak loy b'machshavtai. Not just like Samir is the chlor. That's good when you're talking and learning. That's when you're supposed to talk to check your machshava. But so we have to distinguish in our talking here. But if we're going ahead and we're being megala something, I believe, by the way, this is a big difference between a Rosh Hashiva and a posek. Rosh Hashiva can give shiurim and talk and analyze, and that's good. That's a job of a teacher. But a posek, everybody's hanging on to your word, and that's why hisaru b'divreichem chachomim. That you have to be careful. Every word, like, it has to be mevareh lakol. It has to be very, very clear what you're saying. Very good. I want to say something even more pashut than that. That Moshe Rabbeinu was a megamgem. He couldn't speak. And then all of a sudden he could speak. He spoke. So what probably it says in Sfarim that the pshat that he couldn't speak is that it wasn't ready for Gilui. What he had accumulated during all those years before and after the Sneh and becoming Mamash and Isha Elokim, it wasn't Rai L'Dibur. It was something that was his own personal development, and now and he said even when he came to Paro, he said, "I'm not Leish Tvarim Anoichi. I'm in a different. I'm not holding by Gilui." Aaron will be Megala, so it was like a shutfus. Will be Megala. He said, "There's so much here, but I want to just get to the point." Lo mashavar rak loy machshavtoi machshavtoi yachalach shoiv af dvarim hamavayrarim raklei. Sometimes you can have very, very clear. You have a lot of clarity in your own thoughts. But in such a case, we get back to what I started with. Liba lefuma loy galya. Not everything that you think should you be megala, or to put it now in our new words, not everything that you think that you're taking from oilam oisel yoinim should you bring into the oilam hatachton. Not everything from Atzilus and Bria and Yetzirah should come into Asiya, and this is the responsibility of a person. The Chafetz Chaim in Shmiras HaLashon, one of the places, not in the Chafetz Chaim in Shmiras HaLashon, where he speaks about like Lashon Hara, he says like he writes there, this is actually the whole Sefer, what shook me up the most, he says, boy, are you messing up. Like, you're taking the koach that Adam has to bring Dvar Hashem, a Jew has, to bring Dvar Hashem. It's not Pitputei Dvarim. The Gemara speaks a lot about people talk, and they don't say anything. But like here, you're taking the holiest thing that you have, the ability to be Megala, from the world of Atzilus and Bria and Yetzirah, and bring it into the world of Asiya. What are you doing? You're talking Lashon Hara. It's like the worst kind of a short circuit that anybody could do. V'kulam nichshalim, says the Chafetz Chaim ba'avak Lashon Hara. Everybody has this nisayon. It's like an interesting thing. That's how holy it is. I just want to explain this. I have another couple of minutes here. I want to explain this. This is a sefer of Rav Kook on brachas, and here on this not on this Gemara. I'm sorry, on a Gemara a little bit close to here. The Gemara talks about. This is something. So you saw just to go on off. The Gemara speaks about the Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha. We all say twice a day, Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha. We all know Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha. So most of it, Most of it has to do with like how the world is going to be when the world is b'tikunai. So anyways, the Gemara says that that's why the Gemara says that if you say Ashrei properly, muftach leishuhu ben olam haba. Obviously, you're the one who can talk. And olam haba, olam haba might mean like today, tomorrow, as you say, when Mashiach comes. Olam haba, you have Ashrei. So the Gemara says, well known, that it's all in the Seder of Aleph Beis, which is agav. I'm saying that Seder Aleph Beis is always very important because the world was created with Seder Aleph Beis. Aleph Beis is very, very much in line with what we're talking, because Aleph Beis is when something very ruchani that had no bitui at all, had no expression at all of a sudden came out in Abba, Ba, Ged. That was the first expression of Olam Hazeh as we know it, coming from a place of ruchnius. Lama Torah Maschil Bebeis. In other words, the Aleph Beis, Ha'olam Nivra Ba'Aleph Beis. The first Rav Kook in the Oros, and maybe one of the first Rav Kooks that he wrote was Kol Olam Kulei Mismala Oisios. Everything is Oisios. Now those letters, Ba, become words, and those words become sentences. Those sentences become ideas, and those ideas become ideologies. So, but it all starts with the Aleph Beis. So Aleph Beis means the first expression of anything conceivable in this world from the Brias Hashem. So the Ashrei is all about the Aleph Beis, missing which letter? Nun. So why is it missing the Nun? So the answer is, didn't want to say a lashon of nefila. Okay, a little bit shvach. I thought it was like a lashon of, why don't you use a lashon naki? Is that what does the Gemara mean? It doesn't want to use a lashon nefila. It says lashon nefila all over Tanakh. Even our davening, it says lashon nefila. All of a sudden, no. And it doesn't even say necessarily nefila, just nun. Just an ois of nun. So Rav Kook brings here, and this is the main reason I'm reading to this. He says you have to take a look in the Ramchal. Brings the Ramchal b'sefer Adir B'Morim. One of the svarim of the Ramchal is Adir B'Morim. I don't. It's hard for me sometimes to understand the Ramchal. A lot of people understand the Ramchal. I don't always understand the Ramchal, which is why I don't teach the Ramchal. But this Ramchal we could all understand. So Ramchal says in Adir B'Morim Yecheskel Ches Yud Beis. That's where it is. Be'inyan mashakatz galosenu zehu sasum v'chasum. Ramchal asked the question: is that why the heck don't we know when the Geula is? It's a big secret. It's a big mystery. We know Barach, right? We know 6,000 years, and we know that where we are, and we know about Gog and Magog, and we have all kinds of predictions, but we don't know that the Geula is a Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Why not? So says the Ramchal, Amru Chazal, Liba lefuma legalia. The answer is, the Tzadok says here, that Liba, not everything should be revealed. Liba lefuma legalia. Dahainu. And here's the Hesper of the Ramchal, very important. Hainu, shebe'etzem, I'm just telling you in advance, these words shook me up a little bit, because it's different than what I understand. Hainu shebe'etzem, actually, koach hagolus ein bo koach hageula klal. Golus is difficult, and you're not going to find the geula in there. What he's saying to me is, don't try to find the geula in Auschwitz. It's not it's Ramchal. Koyach hagolus ein bo koach hageula klal v'zeu mikoshia shel hagolus atzmai. That is golus. Golus is that golus has no geula in it. Isn't that different than so many things that we learn? Ad sha'agula shalai. So how do we get a geula? Even better, the geula hu rak mitzad koyach achar niskav mimenu. The geula is coming from a different place, lagamri. It's not coming from the galus, meaning that, like when there's a geula, I can relate, because even in a personal geula, when you get a big break, it doesn't come from where you think it was going to come. Nachon? I say whether you're successful in whatever you're trying to be successful in. A person will go down a list of shidduchim with lists and lists and lists. So I marry this one, I marry that one, I said this and that. And then they marry somebody who has nothing to do with that list. I'm forever in despair about this. Mimakom acher. This is Lashon. Rak mitzad koyach acher niskav mimenu. Niskav mimenu. So the geula is going to come from where you don't expect it. This is all through the Gemara, like Kaharafayin. Geula is going to come in a way that you don't expect it to come. So all our predictions, Acha gula shaloi.
So Mordechai told Esther, if you don't do this,
Mimakam acher. Yafa. V'lo be'etzem koach hagolus. It's a Ramchal. That the gula is not coming from the koach hagolus. Have that you're going through galus and we're getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and boom, vayiritzu min habar, right? The Chazal say they rushed him out of the bar. Yeshua Hashem Keharafayin. Yosef had no expectation that he's going to be rushed out of the bar at this second with the chaloi ma'asos. We know the story; we hear it every year. But Yosef didn't know the story. Why are you taking me out of the bar? All of a sudden, you're assuming a bar, and this is life, and this is the geula. You never know where your break's going to come from. That the nefila will be such, that would be the pasuk that would be in Ashrei, had there been a pasuk. If nun in Ashrei, the Gemara says, nafla v'loisoisif kum. So of course they're not going to write that on Shekhnaz. They're not going to write David Hamelech, not going to write that. Pirish nefila hi nefila kazois. It's going to be, we can fall so badly. Shemitzida, he belikima, there's no way of getting out of it. Chas v'shalom. Chas v'shalom, says the Ramchal. Rak, but this is what we need to know. This is the Amunah. Shetavai kima mikoyach elyoin she'enoi bekoyach hanafila klal. What you have to, this is a hard challenge of Amunah. We could see the geula coming, but it's not, it's a liknisht in the golus. That's what the Ramchal says. Al-Kain Ramaz ki ba'olam hazeh ein makam klal l'zeh shleimus mitzad hanafila ki mitzad koyach acher. So this is David HaMelech's word, that I'm not going to put the nefila into the Ashrei because we're talking about, but the Gemara says, but I will be merames to it by saying Soymech Hashem l'chol neifla. I will be. It's not just like a little bit of a nichum. It's that don't worry that the nefila could be so low, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is busy. Niska mimenu mimakam acher, Yeshua ba mimakam acher. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is busy picking us up out of this terrible galus. Al Kain, it's all in the Ramchal. Ashrei sheyesh by ha'achana shel ha'shleimus ha'osid. L'nemar by nun. In the shleimus ha'osid, which is what Ashrei is talking about, l'nemar by nun. L'hayraish mitzad ha'nefila. From a nefila point of view, there is no nefila in osid. Yevshe shetusag ha'shleimus ha'nirtza misad Ashrei. Ki mitzad koach niskav elyon shuhu koach ha'geula haba mimakam acher. So it's good to know in these days. V'hinei mitzad koach ha'nefila shel ha'golus, the nefila of golus shu kosher kol kach, she'ein koach ha'geula nira by klal, where it's hard to see or you don't see. Any koach ha'geula ha'yachas v'sholom, makam lehis maitatus ragleim shel seinei Yisrael lagamri. Wow, this can give such, we really got those Jews. There's no way out of this. Final solution. They're right, there is no gula in that. But what we need to know is that the gula is blossoming. That's why we're still here after all these final solutions. It's final. So that's the hisnoitzetzus hageula shelo chas v'sholom kilyan choretz, that we will never be destroyed. So the hisnoitzetzus hageula lies in the fact that we will never be destroyed. So v'zehu, and that's what the Gemara means. Afal pi kein samchu David beruach hakodesh. Afal pi shein koyach hageula nira b'toras kima mikol malkim b'derech smicha. Hashem will support us. You're not going to see the gula, but you'll see smicha. She derech hisnoitzetzus kedei lahamshech hakiyum. Shloi toiva tikva chalila. Davar zen nimtza. And this we do find. This we do find. We find this chizuk even in the gula. You don't find the geula in the galus, but you do find the netzach Yisrael lo yishaker. V'zeu inyan hester panim. That's what hester panim is all about. Shirak hester yesh. V'loi chalila hachzaras panim legamri. So this is what a important, for the sophisticated thinkers, what you are, what an important ramchal this is, that the gula is coming from someplace else. So here's the thing. If Moshe Rabbeinu, here's the maskana, if Moshe Rabbeinu would have said, B'chatzois halayla, there's going to be a gula, so then he's talking in the realm of time. B'chatzos halayla, the tzdagnine paroi are busy figuring out what time it is and telling Paro, okay, chatzos happened and nothing happened. So it's not just that, okay, there might be a lack of synchronism in the clocks, of the tzdagninos and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or as Rabbi Vajja said, this is the chatzos of Yerushalayim, this is chatzos of Egypt, Cairo. No, he was the Rav of Cairo. Yes, he was the Rav. But not only that, but I'm not ready. This is the way I'm understanding this. Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm not ready to bring the geula that's going to happen into the world of Gashmias. I'm not going to do this gilui. It's kachatzois halayla. There's not going to be a gilui gamor of the Makzuchers and the Geulas Yisrael, because the Geula comes from Makam Acher, which is why we don't know exactly. But every Geula that's being predicted, it's kachatzois. It's never chatzois, b'chatzois. And one last time, the omek hadavar is because once you say, when you say kachatzos, you're in the realm of let's keep thinking, let's keep guessing, let's keep waiting. Once you put a b'chatzois, you're doing a gilui gamor into the world of zman, kates, and kates. Moshe Rabbeinu said, "I'm not ready to be meskala." I think that's the hesber of Rav Tzadok. Thank you very much. We should be zochet to siyata d'shmai.
Find the word sadi, like in the pasuk before, smicha with sadi.
Samach.
Like the pasuk before.
Samach is there. Right after nun comes samach.
Yeah.
So, even though, meaning the pasuk pshat in the pasuk is, what are you giving us smicha if we never fell? Right. So the answer is that the nefila didn't say. Because there's no Nevilah Zalavai, but the smicha will always be there.
Were you able to find the footnote on Rosh Hashanah?
No, because I didn't look. I'm sorry. First of all, it's not in Rosh Hashanah. It's the Maimer is written on Sukkos. For some reason, they put it.
It's in Sukkot.
Yeah, but it's not in the Pachad Yitzchak of Sukkos. It's in there's another sefer. Pachad Yitzchak is one thing. There's a sefer called Rishimois Leyv, which is another version, if you will, of Pachad Yitzchak, which, if I understand, it was one Pachad Yitzchak he dictated to Rabbits and David, and she wrote that. That's what she told my wife. And the Rishimois Leyv was a very close Talmud, wrote Rishimois Leyv. So if you're a real Hutnerian, as you are. Yeah, well, Kashmaka Garim. His name is Yitzchak Hutner. Yeah, so if you're, so you have to look. But